glad that my presentation was preceded by Andrew Larson's, because he was not just in Haiti, but was also doing thermophilic composting, which is the basis of our sanitation system. I need to stand out here so I can see this, so I can point this thing at it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to do a brief introduction to what composting is in a very simple way, so that I hope everybody understands what I'm talking about. Mother Nature tells us to cover odorous organic material. When something stinks, we want to cover it. This is something that goes back through human history probably for 1 million years. For example, a dead corpse. We bury corpses because they smell very bad as they're rotting, as does any roadkill or any dead animal. Human excrement smells very bad, and so we instinctively want to bury it. Pit latrines are probably the most commonly used system for burying human excrement. But now, we have learned a new way to bury organic material, and that is, instead of burying with dirt, we bury it with carbon-based material. Carbon materials are basically plant-derived materials. Materials derived from plant cellulose, such as the stems of plants, the leaves, sawdust. There are a lot of carbon materials, as you know. When we cover with carbon-based material, it causes something very interesting. It causes the proliferation of a certain type of bacteria known as thermophilic bacteria. These are bacteria that produce heat. When you cover with dirt or any mineral, such as lime or wood ash, or any ashes, these thermophilic organisms do not reproduce. When we cover it with carbon, then we spark the growth of these bacteria. Why would we want to do that? Because the resulting compost pile destroys human diseased organisms. And these are some of the references back since the 50s, when this research was done with diseased organisms applied in compost matrices. The pathogen elimination has been clearly proven scientifically in a compost environment. So that's basically it in a nutshell. This is the essence of sanitation. I think it's the essence of sanitation because pathogenic organisms are eliminated. And not just eliminated, but thoroughly and rapidly eliminated. They're not 50% eliminated or 80% eliminated. They're eliminated in a compost environment beyond detection. Composting, however, by definition, by scientific definition, people in the composting science will tell you that composting is a controlled aerobic system that produces internal biological heat. These are 3 basic qualifications for compost, and the one that you usually see missing is the internal biological heat, because most composting toilets don't actually produce compost. They do not generate the biological heat. Instead, they desiccate, dehydrate, and decompose the toilet material, but it is not compost. And therefore, the sanitation effect is not taking place. So how do we create hot compost systems? Andrew showed a way to do it. And it's very simple. Collect, cover, and compost. Collection is as simple as having a toilet its sole purpose is to collect the toilet material. That's all it does. It collects the toilet material. This is a toilet built in Haiti. It collects the toilet material before it comes in contact with the environment. This is a very similar toilet, also built in Haiti. The collection device is simply a 20-liter receptacle, plastic receptacle. This is cover material in the toilet goes anything that would normally go into a flush toilet. Toilet paper, urine, feces, and even feminine hygiene product. This, by the way, is in a rural orphanage in Haiti. And these toilets are designed so that anytime they're used, the carbon-based material is put over the contents, whatever those contents are. Anything that may smell bad is covered with the carbon material. The carbon material is a biofilter. Carbon material makes a very effective biofilter. It doesn't matter what goes in there. It could be feces, it could be urine, it could be all urine. Nothing but urine. As long as there's a dry layer of this carbon on the top, you will not smell anything. It could be sitting right on the floor in front of you. You will not smell it. The container you can also deposit in their vomit and other human excretions that are smelly. Anything that would come out of your body would go into that toilet. The container is easily removable. It can vary in size. These are this is the first prototypical humanoid toilet built in Haiti. We use a 60-liter receptacle, which is about the maximum size that can be easily handled. The toilets are inexpensive and easy to construct because all they are is a frame for the receptacle. And that's it. You don't need a building. You can put them in the Taj Mahal. You can put them in a tent. You can put them behind the bushes. You can put them in your office, in your bedroom. You can put them in a closet. The superstructure doesn't matter. The toilet itself is simply the collection device. These were mass-produced for the displaced tent cities in Haiti. This is the same toilet, 60-liter receptacle. This is in a corner of a room off the bedroom. And the reason I show this picture is because these toilets can be put anywhere, indoors or out. As long as the contents are covered with the carbon material, there is no odor. And as Andrew said in his presentation, no joke. There's no odor. It's hard to believe, but in fact, if you smell anything from these toilets, it means you need to add more cover material. And as long as you have an adequate amount of cover material, you could put these toilets anywhere because they do not stink. So here, this is an example of a toilet stall where this is a school in an urban area in Port-au-Prince. This school serves 500 to 1,500 students. This stall contains 4 toilets, and in this case, they have the toilets situated outside. Behind the toilets here are these bins. Now these are compost bins. Each bin takes 3 months to fill. The material collected in the toilets is simply taken from there to there and composted 4 meters away. There's no transportation. You don't have to truck this stuff 30 miles. As soon as you start doing that sort of thing, the costs go way up and it becomes impractical. I just want to point out we have 4 bins there. Each one takes 3 months to fill. So after a year, all 4 will be filled. The first bin on the left was full. Over time, it shrinks. The full bins will shrink. So this second bin is what's being filled now. And then after it's full, the 3rd bin and the 4th bin. And by that time, the 1st bin will be finished composting and able to be used. This particular toilet stall uses a chute through the floor. This lady, every system we set up down there had a team. The team could range from 1 person to 3 people. In this case, in this school, we had 3 people. This lady was on the team, the compost team, and her job was to keep the toilet stalls and everything clean. The compost teams in these places were highly respected people. Everybody loved the composters because they loved the toilet. This is the same 4-stall toilet. The drums are underneath. Here's the compost bins. This drum is in use. This is an empty one. These are recycled drums. The toilets are built around the container. You find what containers are available in Port-au-Prince or wherever you happen to be, and then you build a toilet to fit the container. This is hand washing. Every one of our toilet setups have a hand washing station. And again, these are the compost bins. This is a close-up. This is the one they were filling. And it looks like it's full, but it isn't, because as you build these and fill them, they shrink at the same time. So you can actually keep putting material in, and it will shrink. As you can see, this one's been built for about 3 months. That's how much that one has shrunk in 3 months. By the time it's done, it will shrink to about 60% of its original size. We're using sugarcane bagasse in Haiti. This is an example of a supply. This is a rum factory, Barbancourt rum. So I encourage everybody to drink as much Barbancourt rum as possible because it supports our work in Haiti. In fact, we drank as much as we could while we were there. It was tough, but somebody had to do it. But there's literally acres of this stuff. This is about 6 feet deep. And you can see the people in the back. This bagasse is just thrown out. It's a waste product. We also found these mountains of sawdust, a byproduct of the amyris, well, it doesn't say up there, but they're making amyris oil from sandalwood type trees, grinding them up real fine, extracting the oil with steam, and this is what's left behind, and they're just trying to get rid of it. It has a floral, flowery aroma to it, so we use it in the toilets. It's perfect. Here, this is the same toilet stall at the schools, the Amurt School, A-M-U-R-T. I have a video of this system up on YouTube. When these receptacles are full, they dig a hole in the existing compost, which is covered with the bagasse, put the toilet material in the hole, and cover it back up. And there's always a clean layer of bagasse or some type of cover material on the top of the toilets and the toilet material and compost bins at all times. And what happens is there are no flies and no odor. And as probably many of you understand, a lot of toilets in developing countries are nothing but flies and odor. These have no odor and no flies. The flies can't, if you cover the stinking organic material to the extent that you can't smell it, flies are not attracted to it. Flies smell it and are attracted to it by the odor. High temperatures are consistent, prolonged to 60 degrees centigrade. In Haiti, we found it's very easy to achieve thermophilic compost. This is sitting at 140 Fahrenheit, but it's 60 centigrade. This is a 6-month-old pile that's been, once the pile is built, covered over, it's left alone, not disturbed, nothing added to it, nobody digs into it. They're never turned in this system. You never have to turn the piles. 6 months later, it's reading 55 degrees centigrade still. Now, if you remember from Andrew's presentation, 55 degrees is required, in fact, by the US EPA. It's required for 3 days. 3 days for pathogen elimination, and that's a wide margin of error. Here it is 6 months. We're still sitting at 55 degrees centigrade. So from a sanitation point of view, cholera, ascaris, tapeworms, you name it, none of those human pathogens survive this environment. Compost piles don't get diseases, humans get the diseases. But when the disease organisms get into the compost environment, they're eliminated. These guys are sitting on the pile. There is no odor, nobody can smell anything there. It's a comprehensive organic recycling system, not just the toilet. All of the food scraps from the school went into these bins as well. And you can also compost animal mortalities. If a dog, a cat, chickens, ducks, whatever happens to be dying or found dead in the yard, dig a hole, throw it in there. And after a year of aging means after the pile is completely built and finished, then you time it for a year. The compost is suitable for food gardens. You saw after 6 months it was still cooking in there. It takes a year before the temperature drops down to ambient and compost is suitable for agriculture. The sanitation aspect of it is completed in a matter of days, but the agricultural aspect of it takes a full year after collection. We set up these educational programs. Community came in and were trained about these toilets, how they worked, why they worked, and the toilet stalls all were painted with these ecological messages, so when people used the toilets, they saw that it was an ecological experience. This is a hand washing station. Instructions are posted in each toilet, and instructions are very simple. Poop, cover, close the lid, wash your hands. That's all it says. In the toilets, this is the painting on the outside of the toilet in another school in Port-au-Prince. This is an urban school, and what it says is eat, shit, compost, and grow food. There's no waste, no pollution, and no disposal. This is the hardest thing for people to understand. We are not getting rid of anything. We're not throwing anything away. We're not disposing of anything. There is never a waste product that goes into these toilets. There are only organic materials that we recycle. You'll notice that I never refer to anything as waste because there is no waste. This is a cyclical process that goes on and on and on, year after year, indefinitely. No waste is part of this system. And I think that's the end of my presentation. So.
All right, any questions?
Do you have an explanation why the pile is still hot after half a year? Because from my understanding, you need a lot of fresh organic material to reach these temperatures. So after 6 months, it should be gone after 2 weeks or so.
No, he asked, can everybody hear? He asked why it's still 6 months, it's still so hot. Well, part of that has to do with mass. There's a fairly large mass there, and the larger the mass, the longer it will hold the heat. I have seen compost piles a year later, still thermophilic. A year later because they had such a large mass. If you have, in fact, as Andrew pointed out, if you don't have enough mass, they just won't heat up. They won't heat up. That's why most of the compost toilets, the commercial compost units, the commercial composting bins that you buy, they never heat up. There's not enough mass. If you take that same exact organic material and put it into a larger mass, cubic meter, roughly minimum, then it will heat up. Now, in the case of the sugarcane bagasse has residual sugar in it, and that feeds bacteria. It's also embedded into the woody matrix of the compost pile. So I think that is feeding, slow feeding process over a long period of time. On the other hand, we've done the same work in California with cedar wood, which is rot resistant, no sugar, residual sugar, and 6 months later it's still hot as well. So I think it's just a matter of mass, and you know, this proves that it's not, as you said, it just heats up and cools down. Anybody else?
Any questions? Who was first? Here's to Max.
Joe, what about rain? And that's very applicable given the fact they're about ready to get a hurricane. I noticed there was no covering over the compost piles. Doesn't matter?
That's a good question, and I've answered these questions a million times. And they're important questions. First off, you have to understand that a compost pile, a compost environment like that is like a sponge. It will take a lot of moisture, it just absorbs it. People think, oh, you pile it up, it's going to leach and drain and all that. It doesn't. It absorbs. It absorbs. It's this biological breathing mass of billions of organisms. A management technique is, when you have a pile of compost, cover it with a thick layer of cover material. That cover material acts not only as a biofilter, but as also a rain absorber. So if you have heavy rains, they're absorbed by the cover material. That prevents, compost washing out. It also prevents the compost from drying out. So it's really management technique. One of the things Andrew talked about was edge effect. The system we use here, when you add new material to the bin, you rake the cover material aside, dig into the compost, put the new material in, cover it with the compost, and then put some fresh cover material on. And what you're doing is you're building a blanket of cover material around the edge, and in effect, an insulating layer around the sides. You start with it underneath, and you put it on top. And in essence, you've created an organic mass that's protected from rain, wind, dogs, vermin, etc.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you so much for this very nice presentation. Maybe I want to know if the system receives fecal matter and urine at the same time, because urine, maybe due to ammonium, can be some odors and spray. I don't know. You can please explain this?
The system takes all fecal material and urine and toilet paper and, like I said, vomit or anything anybody wants to put in the toilet. In order for those toilets to be odor-free, the contents have to be covered with bagasse, sawdust, or what have you. In order for the toilets to be odorless, there has to be enough cover to prevent odor. This is a management technique that is very simple because it doesn't require a PhD. All it requires is a nose. I tell people, if you smell it, put more cover material, right? Now what happens then is, when you add that much cover material, you need the urine in the toilet. The urine balances the carbon, provides the moisture. If you didn't put the urine in there, you'd have too dry of a organic mass. So when you cover thoroughly, you want the urine balances the cover material, it all goes into the same compost bin and nothing is separated. And by the way, no drains, no ventilation, no electricity, no refrigeration, nothing. It's just very simple.